Hello, fellow human, it's Anya, and today I'll be doing a little recap of the books I read last September. So, I did something a bit different. I decided to join a reading challenge to help me decide what to read for the month. I'm a very avid user of the Fable app. I use it to track my books, leave reviews, join book clubs, and one of the things they do on Fable is they create reading challenges for users to join in, and I decided to join their TBR Bingo Reading Challenge. There are 8 books in total, and for most of these, I had to look for books that fit the description, and it was a really fun way to get some new ideas, new books to read. I'm a bit of a slow reader. I can only fit about 1 to 2 books a month in my schedule, and I was a bit hesitant to get into reading 8 books, and I was really nervous about whether I'd actually succeed in reading all of those, but I was also excited to try a new challenge and get to read more interesting books as well. I'll be talking about what I read last month because I successfully completed the mission and I have a wheel. Where is my wheel? I created a wheel to help me decide what to talk about first. So let's spin. Okay, so first we have question mark, huh? Huh in the title. I actually had a really hard time looking for books that had a question mark in them. I thought it would be really easy, but it took me quite a while. And I was looking for something a bit short as well since I was already rushing at this point. So what I read was They Shoot Horses, Don't They? By Horace McCoy. I don't have the physical books. I read them all in ebooks, so I'll just be showing the covers on my iPad. So this is the book I read. This is a story set in the 1930s. It focuses on Gloria and Robert. They're 2 young people trying to make it in Hollywood. She's an actress, and Robert is an aspiring director, and they're trying to succeed, follow their dreams in Hollywood. And they end up joining this dance marathon, which is apparently this was quite a popular phenomenon back in the day. Basically, they have to dance for an hour and 50 minutes, and then they take a short break after, and then they continue doing this until couples slowly get eliminated and there's only one remaining. So if you stop dancing, you get eliminated. This is appealing to Gloria and Robert because there's a cash prize involved, and in between breaks, they get shelter, they get food, so everything's provided as long as they're in the competition. You can get sponsored as well because some people in Hollywood go to watch the competition so they could get discovered. It follows their journey going through the competition as well as Gloria's deteriorating mental state, her emotional state, because she was already quite vulnerable, and it only seems to worsen as the competition progresses, so it delves into that. It's a very bleak book. It was published during the Great Depression, and it really covers that specific period of time as well. I found the dynamic between Robert and Gloria very interesting. It's not romantic, they're just 2 people trying to help each other get by, and they understand what each other is going through, and they're trying to kind of make it during a time when they're both not doing well in their journey towards their dreams. So it's very bleak, especially when you see their mental state getting worse. Robert's trying his best. He's a bit more optimistic. He believes that he can use this as an opportunity to get more connections, but then Gloria's just like, I don't want to live anymore. It was a bit repetitive at times. It follows like a very short sequence of events, like they dance, they rest, they do like a race, and then it just keeps going on until the end. So I found it a bit repetitive even though it was a very short book. I also didn't connect with the side characters too much, but I really did like the final scene of the book. It was very depressing payoff to everything that was being set up, and it really hits you at the end. And I know there's a movie for this as well, so I might look into that after this. And yeah, I gave it a 3 stars. Let me just drink water. Okay, this is my first time recording such a talky video, and my throat has been shocked. I hope my voice survives. I have so much to say, and my voice doesn't want me to keep talking. Anyway, for our next book, let me return to the wheel. Whee! Okay, on wildlife, I'm really excited to talk about this one. The book I read for wildlife was Migrations by Charlotte McConaughey. And this is like one of the reasons why I was so happy I joined this reading challenge. I got to discover this very interesting author because of this book. I wanted to kind of see if there was like a short fiction read about wildlife, so I took time searching, and this is what I found, and I was intrigued by the premise. Migrations follows this woman named Franny who drops everything and goes to Greenland because she has one mission, which is to follow these birds called Arctic terns. They're the last of their species, and they're going on what seems to be their final migration to Antarctica. So this is in a world where climate change has progressed to the point that animals are becoming extinct. In this case, these birds, Franny is very interested in birds, so she wants to accompany them as they go on their last migration, and she goes to Greenland to find a boat and a crew who will help her get there. I wrote in my review that it was a very Sagittarius book. Franny as a character just has this strong sense of wanderlust. She always feels an urge to leave, to explore, to go away, to chase adventures, and this is one of them. Normally, I'm not a fan of constantly shifting back and forth between past and present. I find it a bit jarring, and usually one isn't as interesting as the other. But in this case, I think it was executed really well. It slowly gives you snippets of her past to explain like her origins, her life background, what led her to this journey in the first place, and it leaves you hanging, but not in a frustrated way. Like, you're curious, but you're also not mad about having to get back to the present. I do admit that I liked the flashbacks a bit more, just because I'm not a very action story oriented person, and I feel like the present, with all the hijinks going on in the boat with the crew, didn't appeal to me as much as the more introspective, interpersonal, dialogue heavy stuff that happens in the past. But I still think both were executed very well. I also love how the different relationships she has are explored in the story. She has this kind of found family dynamic with the crew she meets. It also catalogs the story of how she met her husband, who's a professor, and their shared interest in birds and dealing with the climate change crisis and all of that. It's just a really beautiful study of the different connections you can make in life. It has a lot of themes. It looks into love, loss, the intricacies of existing or trying to exist ethically in a world that's slowly dying. It just covers a lot of these interesting themes, but not in a way that's like um, makes one overpower the other. They mesh really well. I really fell in love with Franny's story. More things get revealed as the truth of her motivations slowly gets revealed. By the end of the story, I was just like crying and everything because it's just such a beautiful look into the things we're willing to do for the people we love and for the things we love. I gave it a 4 stars, but I feel like I will definitely get higher after a reread. But I highly recommend it, and I'm so excited to get into uh, more of her books. There's one I saw, a Wild Dark Shore. I think it's about the ocean as well, based on the cover. So I can't wait to dive into that. I really enjoyed this book, and if you're interested in wildlife, environmentalism, but also want to hear a story about adventure, dealing with trauma, dealing with grief, it's a great read, and it's quite short as well, but it packs such a punch. I talked a lot and it hurts. Let's go to our next read. Ooh, it's Chess Players. This book has actually been in my TBR for a while, so I was very happy for an excuse to finally read it. It is Intermezzo by Sally Rooney. It follows the story of two brothers, Peter and Ivan, who are dealing with the recent loss of their father. So their relationship seems quite strained, and it's only been affected even more by their father's passing, and it explores how they deal with this grief, how it affects their relationship with each other. The story also covers their respective relationships with their women in their lives, the romantic relationships they're having at the moment, and how their relationship as brothers and the grief they're experiencing has affected that. So it's more of a character study and an exploration of their relationship. and how it's been impacted by loss. I do admit I was a bit apprehensive because I do not enjoy Sally Rooney's non-usage of quotation marks, but little did I know that the loss of quotation marks would be the least of my concerns while reading this, because when I read that first chapter, I legitimately thought I was going insane. I did not understand what I was reading. I was concerned about my ability to read. It was all fragmented thoughts. Nothing was making sense, so I had to Google, is this really how intermezzo is written? Is this like the style? Is it just me who's struggling to read this? And I found out that it is intentional. The POV of one of the brothers is meant to be written in a very stream of consciousness way to mirror his emotional state. It can be hard to follow. So I was relieved that the whole book wasn't written this way. It was only some parts that I had to get used to. And yeah, because I was really worried. I was looking forward to this book, and I was worried it was gonna be like that the whole time. And it's a very thick book. I felt it was quite a chore to read at first, like for the first third, the first half, because nothing much happens. It's as I said, it's more of a character study, very introspective, and not much goes on in their day-to-day life. It really just focuses on their inner musings. But once I got used to the writing style, it and everything just clicked. The book started really impacting and hitting me in the right way. I loved immersing in each of the brothers' thoughts. I was very invested in how they navigated their relationships, how they keep crossing each other's lives even though they don't intend to, how the feelings they've been holding in as brothers growing up with all their family circumstances, how it all just builds up and spills out because of the grief they're experiencing. It's just a very immersive look into how loss can affect a dysfunctional family, especially between siblings. I thought I wouldn't enjoy it as much because of the style, but once you get used to it, you can really appreciate the beauty of the writing and how intimate and vulnerable it is, and how much it really captures that feeling of having a sibling, having who's years older than you, because Peter's a lawyer in his 30s, and Ivan is in his 20s. He's a chess player in his 20s, and just the emotions that can build up with such a gap, but still considering your shared experiences, especially your most recent shared experience of a great loss in your life. I plan to buy a physical book that I can annotate on and just really delve into the prose even more, because I really enjoyed it and I want to soak it in more without being rushed. So yeah, I enjoyed this book and I gave it 4 stars. Now we return to the wheel to decide our next read. I forgot to remove chess players, but I'll just remove it if I get it again. Animal on the cover is our next category. I read The Hounding by Shinobi Purvis, and there are dogs on the cover to meet the requirement. So this is a book set in a small rural village in 18th century England, and it follows these 5 sisters. They've lost their parents, and most recently they've lost their grandmother, so they're now living with their elderly grandfather, who is a bit sickly as well. These girls have a reputation of being a bit more independent, kind of wild, free-spirited, a bit standoffish. They don't really interact much with the villagers. They don't really conform to what's expected of a young lady during this time. They're free. Their grandfather lets them roam and do as they wish. So the villagers often find them strange. And with this happening, a rumor starts to spread that these girls can actually transform into dogs. There's this one villager who claimed he saw these girls turning into dogs, and he starts telling everyone that the girls can turn into dogs. They are causing a curse, or they're the reason for all the bad stuff happening in their village. They're quite a superstitious bunch in that village, so it does not take long for that rumor to spread, especially considering the reputation these girls have. The story is told through the perspective of multiple villagers, but we never get to hear from the sisters, so we're quite detached from them. We're experiencing these encounters, these visions of these sisters turning into dogs from these different villagers, and learning how each of them kind of reacts and how they kind of reflect on whether it's true or not. I do love a good historical fiction. The writing style of this book was very immersive. It described the village very well. It has a very eerie tone to it that feels like you're kind of in the village and you're sensing all the paranoia that's spreading with all the villagers. It really captures that feeling of paranoia when a rumor spreads and it feeds into this existing belief that people already have, which they use to kind of convince themselves that, yeah, it's true. I really love the dynamic between the sisters. I am sad that we don't get to really hear much about them. We're very detached. We only get like a few snippets about their personalities, but what we do get, I very much enjoyed. I loved their dynamic. Like the oldest sister to the youngest sister, they all have unique personalities. I just wish we got to know them more, but I do see the point of not getting to really hear from them more intimately, and that detachment was very purposeful, I think. The book really kind of captures the thought process of your typical misogynist. There's this man who started spreading the rumors. He can't explain why he just loathes these girls, even from an interaction where they ignore him once. It triggers such a feral emotion in him and such a feral hatred that causes him to want to turn to violence. And it's something that's sadly still accurate today. And I really liked how it delves into that. I do admit it's not very subtle in its messaging. I feel like it when it like talks about the thought process of the villagers, especially from the men who feel this urge towards violence targeted towards these women. It's just like, I can't explain why I hate these women. And then there are some passages like, oh, it's so hard to be a woman, it's better. Some of them are very on the nose, which can be jarring at times, but I still do really like the narrative device they used of the girls turning into a dog and the rumor spreading around as some kind of metaphor. Though it's not very nuanced in its themes, I still enjoyed the book, and I do love the ambiguity of the ending. I think it was well done, though I wish we had a bit more and got to know the sisters a bit more. But yeah, I gave a 3.5. Next. Oh my gosh, okay. We have Cat's POV. I will now be showing you one of my favorite books so far this year. I'm so happy it wasn't on my TBR. I had to find it, and I'm so happy I did. It's called The Traveling Cat Chronicles by Hiro Arikawa, and it's translated by Philip Gabriel. So this is a Japanese book that was translated. This story follows a cat. It's about a stray cat who gets rescued by this man called Satoru, and he adopts the cat basically and names the cat Nana. 5 years later, Satoru decides he needs to find a new home for Nana, so they go on a trip visiting childhood friends of Satoru and deciding which of them would be a good new owner for Nana. We go visit each friend from different stages in Satoru's life. We have someone from his childhood days, someone from middle school, someone from college. We get to learn more about Satoru through these different visits. We get to learn about how he impacted the lives of his friends. So it's through a cat's POV, but when he visits each person, we get flashbacks of what Satoru's life was like. So it's kind of like a chronological telling of Satoru's backstory through the lens of his friends. I really had fun learning about Satoru's character. It's a very heartwarming read. Nana as a cat, he's written the way we assume cats to be, like very bossy, very independent, very demanding when it comes to their needs, and I think Nana's no-nonsense personality makes his more vulnerable moments, more emotional moments hit even harder. The human characters are also really great. I loved learning about their backstories as well, the relationship with Satoru, and the different moments of their friendship. And there are also cat side characters as well in every visit. We have cats that Nana interacts with, which I think is super cute. Minor spoiler, the third half of this book is where the emotional climax really plays out. All the pieces come together, and Satoru's true motivations for finding Nana a new home are finally revealed. Basically, I was just crying this whole time because I did not expect it to take this turn. I was enjoying all the different stories, anecdotes from Satoru's friends, and I was so amused by how Nana was clearly determined not to be given away despite liking these friends of Satoru's, and basically it's just an excuse for them to hang out. The third act just ruined me. I was crying the whole time. It's a great read, and usually I struggle to connect with Japanese translations. I struggle to connect with them emotionally, maybe because of the subject matter, the setting, or the writing style. But this one, it really hit me, and it was my first time feeling this affected. I was like in bed crying during the last few chapters. So I really recommend this, especially if you're a cat lover. I love being in Nana's mind and hearing his inner monologues, and of course, seeing his relationship with Satoru, who I can really relate to because I'm a cat lover as well. Get some tissues ready, but also it's a very heartwarming read about friendship, and yeah, it's a great time. I gave it a 4.25, I think. I gave it a 4.25. It's a great book. Moving on. We got Set in Fall. So I read a book that takes place during Halloween, and it's Holly Jackson's Not Quite Dead Yet. So this was a book club pick by one of the fable book clubs I was part of, and usually I make it a point to read a few of the book club recommendations if I can. So I was very happy I was able to fit this in. It's about this girl named Jet who is a victim of an attempted murder in her own home during Halloween night, and she lives, but she gets a head injury. The doctors tell her it's going to trigger a deadly aneurysm in 7 days. So she is determined to solve her murder and catch her murderer before her time runs out. I like how you get into the story with the stakes already so high. You open the scene and all the characters are in place. You get to meet everyone, and you can see how everyone already has potential motivations for committing the crime, and you see them interacting with the Jet while you're going through with her as she solves the mystery. The thrill of solving the mystery is there, but it's also accompanied by this sense of dread for what's to come, and also that feeling of emotion at this impending doom, impending deadly fate that awaits you. So it's quite bittersweet. It's sad, it's thrilling, and it's a lot of emotions at the same time. I also liked the dynamic between her and Billy, which is the main male character of the book. He's her childhood friend, and they haven't interacted much this past few years, but they reconnect as he decides to help her solve her murder before her time runs out. I think he's practical, yet he's practical and grounded, but he's also very gentle and soft-hearted, and I think it complements Jet's more impulsive and spontaneous personality, and I just love how they interact with each other. He's a great character as well, with a very compelling backstory. My main issue with this book is the way it's written. I couldn't pinpoint at first, but a few reviews helped me understand what I was feeling better, because I was feeling I could feel something off. Like, why couldn't I fully enjoy this? And I feel like it's because it's written in a very YA tone. Like, these characters are like in their near 30s, like they're basically adults, but the tone is it feels a bit juvenile at times. The dialogue, the personalities of the characters, you could easily swap them out for like maybe like 17 or 18-year-olds, and it would probably fit better. There was a bit of a disconnect between the writing style and the ages of these characters. I do feel like it was trying extra hard to subvert expectations. So it was setting like red herrings and distractions everywhere. Oh, you're never gonna see this coming, which was, I could like feel the effort of putting things to distract you and set up the wrong expectations. The premise it delivered. It was just the tone and the writing style that threw me off a bit. But yeah, I gave it a 3.75. Cold Case. I was worried that I mixed up my books, but it's correct. Cold Case. For this, I read. Let me find her. I'm losing her. Stop losing. Okay, I found it. So for this, I read The Naturals by Jennifer Lynn Barnes. It's the first book of the Naturals series. It's about this teenage girl named Cassie who gets recruited by the FBI to crack cold cases as part of their Naturals program. She joins a group of teenagers who have exceptional abilities that make them very useful when it comes to solving cases. Cassie, she's a natural profiler. She can read people really well, which the FBI finds useful. So they recruit her into this program so she can develop her skills and help them crack some cold cases. However, there is a real-time criminal case that's ongoing. There's a killer on the loose, and Cassie gets roped into this. She gets involved in this main mystery as well, and that's where the story kind of revolves around. For context, I did not enjoy the Inheritance games. I was very excited to read it and was very disappointed by what I read. So, of course, I was a bit hesitant to get into another Jennifer Lynn Barnes book, but I had a hard time looking for cold case books that were short enough to fit within my reading schedule, and this was one of the main suggestions for cold case books. I was surprised that I actually enjoyed it quite a bit. I love the thought of these teens having heightened abilities. They're not too far-fetched. They're just like someone who has a very high IQ, for example. It's just kind of something in that area. Like Cassie's a natural profiler. One of her companions in the group is very good at telling lies and pinpointing lies. So she's very good in interrogating subjects. There's someone who's good at reading emotions. So I found these very unique abilities, and I liked how they are used to solve the cases in the story. I really enjoyed the fan family aspect. It's one of my favorite tropes, and I think the characters bounce off each other really well. Despite their young age, I found them still very engaging to read and fun to kind of follow along with. I like reading about how they use their individual skills to crack cases, how they train themselves to improve their skills, and of course, how these gifts are used when they're interacting with each other casually or just causing mischief in general. I think it's a very great device to revolve your character interactions around. Just like the Inheritance games, one of the parts I did not really enjoy from this story was the romance. We have a love triangle once again, and I felt like the romance was too rushed and sudden. Like in just a few chapters, the triangle is already set up so deeply. Like I was shocked by how quickly it was established. I thought it needed more time to kind of build up into a romance. I still did enjoy the love triangle of the Naturals more than the Inheritance games. I found it such a waste. I feel like considering their personalities and the way they bounce off each other, it would have benefited from more of a slow burn, more of a build up, considering how many books we have in the series. So I was very disappointed when it was with how rushed it was, but I feel like there's a lot of room for it to get better. I do not know. There's no clear winner in the love triangle yet at the moment, at least. No one's like being sidelined, so I think both men have equal chances, but I still think it was a bit rushed, which was one of the weak points in the story for me. The final twist is good, but I felt like it could have been set up a bit better because some parts just felt random when they were like finally revealing all the truth behind the mystery. There were some parts I felt could have been set up more as the story was progressing. But other than that, I still found it really engaging, and I actually might consider checking out the rest of the series because these characters are quite fun, and the story has a lot of room to try out like different paths, different cases to solve, and I like the dynamic of the characters. I'd love to see them use their skills on the field even more, because most of the time in this book they're stuck at home just working from like indoors. So I'd love to see them actually out in the field and doing investigations. So yeah, might check it out if I am looking for another short book to read about cold cases, I guess. I gave this a 3.5. Okay, we're finally on our last book. It's Fall Colors, and this also happens to be the last book I read for the month. On the very last day, it was super clutch. This was another book club read from Fable, and fortunately, it's a short read, so I was able to finish it in one day. This is The Coin by Yasmin Zaher, and it follows this young, wealthy, unnamed Palestinian woman who moves to New York, where she works as a teacher for underprivileged boys in a private middle school. And she's very obsessed with cleanliness. She's wealthy, so she has a lot of designer clothes and items. She's also kind of dealing with the displacement she feels and her need to feel a sense of belongingness in America after she's moved there. So it kind of follows her along this journey as she slowly unravels from her obsession and her struggle to find footing in this new world. I gave this a 3 stars. And I feel like it was very generous considering how much I didn't really enjoy the book, but I gave it a higher rating than I expected because I feel like there was a lot of potential that I wasn't catching on to, and the problem was probably me. What I didn't expect was for this book to be very similarly written as My Year of Rest and Relaxation, which I really found to be such a slog to read. I just can't connect with books that are no plot, just vibes, slowly going insane, doing the same things every day and spending money and rotting. So it's just not my kind of book, and I didn't expect it to be what this book was about, so I felt very disappointed, and it was such a chore for me to get through even with its short length. But I found it to be really well written. I felt like there was a lot of interesting themes being explored about displacement, trying to navigate your life after trauma, and the lengths you'll go to cope, different obsessions that can come about as you try to navigate an unfamiliar space. Just these different topics that I was really interested in exploring, but I didn't get enough of in this book, and I was too distracted by the lack of narrative structure to fully enjoy it. But there's something about the writing where I feel like it just wasn't clicking for me at the right time. I need to revisit it to see if I can find a nugget of that, of the things I was wanting from it. So I gave it a 3 stars, but I will definitely revisit it to see if it just isn't for me. But yeah, that was my last book, and I managed to finish it at the very last day of September, and I managed to succeed in my reading challenge. I guess that's a wrap on my recap of my September reads. I've officially gone over my 20 book reading goal for the year, so that's a great achievement. Thank you for listening to me ramble about my book reviews. That was such a hectic experience for me. I think I'll just be slowly going through my usual 1 to 2 books to rest from this very intense reading sprint that I just gone through, because it really was such a brain drain, and I feel like a part of me didn't get to appreciate a lot of those books enough because of how quickly I was trying to get through them. So I'll be taking a little break to kind of appreciate my next reads for October. And yeah, that's it for me. My wish for you is to find a book to hyperfixate on, and hopefully you'll meet your reading goals as well if you have them. Yeah, that's it for me. Bye!